Hey, it's Adam from the Brisbane channel, and while I've got a bunch of deep dive videos in the works on a range of different topics ranging from active transport, preparation for the Brisbane Olympics in 2032, homelessness, youth crime, the Brisbane music scene, a bunch of different topics, today I'm coming at you with updates on 10 different things that are happening or planned to be happening in Brisbane, in Greater Brisbane. Everything from inquiries into human rights abuses to one LGA's mayor who has plans to make the economy more vampire friendly. So all of these different things, so stay tuned and we'll jump into it right now. This video is sponsored by Mobile Computer Geeks. They're your local experienced team of technicians. They handle everything from computer upgrades and repairs to securing your devices online. Need web design, web hosting, business emails, or IT support? They've got you covered. With same-day service, they come to you and will find the best solutions for you. Call Mobile Computer Geeks today and let them take care of your tech so that you can focus on what matters most. Mention the Brisbane channel when you book for 5% off your booking. And members of the Brisbane channel get 10% off every time they make a booking. First thing is that we have now seen the start of the 6-month trial of 50-cent public transport fares. So no matter how far you go in Queensland by public transport, any one journey will not exceed 50 cents in cost. So that trial has begun, and on the first day we saw an increase of 1.1 million people using public transport across the state. Now that's based on comparing it to the same time a year before. There's a couple of things to keep in mind there though, and one is that the biggest increase was with the ferries, but there have been new ferry terminals that have been added to the routes since the same time last year, and that did already see an increase in the number of people using ferries. So we don't know how much of it is about the new terminals and how much of it is about the change in the fares. Another thing is that the statistics don't really look at whether people were perhaps using the public transport a year ago and just not paying. They were evading paying the fares. So fare evaders who are now paying, how much of that makes up the 1.1 million people, and how many of it is actually people who didn't use it previously because of the cost and are now encouraged to. So, hopefully over time that will become a little bit more clear, and what will be really interesting will be to see what effect more people using public transport has on traffic congestion. Is it going to make the roads better? So the Brisbane channel is going to keep you up to date on that. We'll be keeping a close eye on the changing situation both in the public transport itself and also on the roads. So make sure you're subscribing and stay tuned. One other thing to keep in mind is that a lot of people who are not using public transport are not using it because of the price. As we saw recently, only 1 in 3 people in Brisbane actually has access to reliable, frequent public transport. So will this trial actually make any difference there? Is it going to draw attention to the areas that are more in need in that aspect? Well, one thing that may help the situation with public transport, and that's something that's been announced by Stephen Miles recently, and that is that if he's still in power after the October election, he's going to create a new authority that will administrate all public transport in Queensland. So it'll come under the one umbrella. At the moment, it's a bit of a mess. There's different organizations taking care of different parts of the public transport system. So in Brisbane, for example, in Brisbane City Council is in charge of the buses and the ferries. They do contract them out to other organizations that run them, but ultimately it's the Brisbane City Council that is in charge, while the trains are the authority of Queensland Rail, which is run by the state government. So we've got these systems run by different parts of the government, so they're not always necessarily interacting all that well in terms of the planning and any improvements. They don't necessarily take each other into account as well as if they were under one umbrella organization. And that's what Stephen Miles has proposed, that they're going to actually create an independent transport authority. At the moment it's under the Department of Transport and Main Roads, but it's actually going to be a separate entity which will then cover the trains, the buses and the ferries, which may actually help improve the efficiency of the system. They may be able to plan a better, more accessible public transport system. We'll see what happens. I mean, of course, they've got to get voted back in for that to happen as well. The third update, which is something that was announced about the same time by Stephen Miles, and that is, again, if voted in, he's going to set up 12 government-owned and run fuel stations in Brisbane and regional areas. The idea there is to increase competition, to maybe put a bit of pressure on the other fuel retailers to bring their prices down a little bit. He's also proposing to set a cap of 4 cents per day that the price of fuel can actually be increased. Now, there's mixed views on how effective that would be, and some say that it actually may drive up overall prices, as the retailers may actually keep their prices higher because they can't increase them as dramatically. But, again, time will tell, and we'll be following it along. Okay, on to the next update. Following an investigation by the ABC into human rights abuses in Wacol, in Wolston Park Hospital, allegations of sexual abuse, beatings, chemical restraint. This has been brought to the state government's attention, and they've announced that they're going to now initiate an inquiry into what actually went on. So this institution has a very, very dark history. It's quite infamous, and a lot of people are suffering quite a bit of trauma from time that they spent there. So that investigation has been announced, and the Brisbane Channel will keep you up to date with that as well. Brisbane's not known for having a vibrant nighttime culture. And so, it's definitely not the city for you if you're a vampire, because most things close down when the sun goes down. So what's left for vampires? Well, the Mayor of Logan has your back. John Raven, Mayor of Logan, has a plan to boost the nighttime hospitality industry and create more of a buzz at nighttime by providing furniture and temporary infrastructure for hospitality venues to actually extend out to outdoor areas at nighttime to boost the nighttime economy. He's offering this infrastructure and furniture for free, so businesses have until the 31st of August to express their interest in that. And I think that's a really great thing that this city could really do with, is a more vibrant nighttime culture. And the Mayor of Logan is doing something about that. So good on you, John. And while I'm updating you on other Greater Brisbane LGAs beyond Brisbane City Council, Moreton Bay is getting a new sports centre. The Queensland Government recently announced a new $205 million sports centre. Moreton Bay Indoor Sports Centre will have 12 courts across 2 halls, and will have facilities for basketball, netball, boxing, volleyball, badminton, futsal, wheelchair rugby, and pickleball. Pickleball? Seriously? It's going to have joint funding from the state and federal governments. Also in Moreton Bay, they're building an entirely new town from scratch. Warraba is going to be developed with the plan of building 30,000 residential properties with an intended population of 70,000, and just this month the Queensland Government announced that Warraba was the latest priority development area. They're planning on actually keeping 75% of it as green space in order to maintain the health and ecosystem for wildlife like koalas, sugar gliders, and a bunch of other creatures. So that's actually going to be really interesting to see, actually building a whole community from nothing. The next thing is that accounting firm KPMG have found that since 2019, Brisbane's birth rates have dropped by 4.3%. They cite cost of living pressures as being the reason why people are not as keen to make babies. Interestingly though, the decrease in Brisbane is not nearly as much as in other Australian cities, and I put this down to there being not a lot to do at night time. So, it's still something to do when everything else is shut. So maybe that's why there are fewer people having babies in Sydney and Melbourne compared to Brisbane. And I think this theory is confirmed by the fact that Canberra's birth rate hasn't changed at all. It's pretty common knowledge that preparations for the Brisbane 2032 Olympics and Paralympic Games it's been a bit of a bumpy road, and there's been a lot of changes to plans again and again. And that has affected how funds are being allocated. So originally they were planning to redevelop the Gabba in Woolloongabba, and there was going to be a $2.7 billion new stadium, and plans for that have been completely ruled out by the state premier. So that has also affected plans for the development of busways and the metro at Woolloongabba. And there's $450 million that now is looking like potentially being reallocated to something different now that the Gabba rebuild is not going ahead. There's talks, but nothing really concrete yet, but it's looking like they're considering at the moment putting that $450 million instead of the new metro station at the Gabba and really developing that into something big, reallocating the funds to maybe extending the metro network somewhere else, maybe something else. The Brisbane Channel will keep you up to date on what's happening there as well. And while we're on the topic of funding for projects in Brisbane City, Victoria Park, Brisbane's largest park in the last 50 years, its transformation has been boosted by a $120 million injection of funds as part of the Southeast Queensland Livability Fund. It's a partnership between the federal, state and local levels of government. The funds will contribute to works including an all-ages, all-abilities adventurescape playground, a 2-kilometre parkway loop boulevard linking the existing land bridge over the inner city bypass and the Brisbane Metro and busway station, road and intersection upgrades to improve safety and accessibility in the park, a new active transport bridge at the entrance of the park, new administration and operations buildings, wayfinding signs and public art, as well as additional parking facilities. Brisbane City Council also recently updated the Brisbane Channel on Victoria Park's new urban pump track, which is now 80% complete. It's a 260-metre long course featuring jumps, bumps and bank turns. Finally, the last update is relating to house prices here in Brisbane. They just keep going up. Based on the Domain's latest property price report, Brisbane house prices rose by 4% over the June quarter to a record high of $976,464. And Brisbane house prices are on track to surpass $1 million over the next quarter. Unit prices also rose. They've risen by $249 a day over the past year, making this the second steepest rise in Brisbane's history. And for the first time since 2008, Brisbane has become the third most expensive city to purchase a unit after Sydney and Canberra. So that's just a little update about things happening in Greater Brisbane over the last month or so. We like to keep you in touch and up to date here on the Brisbane Channel. As I've mentioned, we're working on some really good deep dive kind of videos, but there'll also be update videos. I've got another city comparison coming up, probably another then and now video coming up as well, so make sure you're subscribed. Give this video a thumbs up if there was anything at all that you didn't know before the video, and I'll see you in the next one.